Greetings. Yes, we are back so soon after recording a nearly 8-hour video. I was listening to that and I could see my mommy saying, "Boy, that potty mouth. My God. I'm so sorry, Mommy." Grandmommy, great grandmommy. I can't help it. I'm a potty mouth. But anyway, pardon, I get a little carried away. Um, uh, um, hmm. So why are we back and trying to act normal and not like a rabid wild Indian with a extreme potty mouth syndromes? We're back because my mommy used to curse too, so that's where I get it from, y'all. Uh, and I think her mother used to curse too, uh, until then she transformed into a sweet old lady. hmm Um, we are back today because we are still reeling, but we're not going to be cursing. We are still reeling over the revelation that free Black persons could vote. And I'm like, no, that's what all these delusional Indians, I'm just kidding. That's what all these D-Indians be talking about. And they said we had a government for all of what, 2 years maybe? Y'all had some voting? Okay, my gosh. That's why I didn't know about it. It was so quick. It's like you could snap your finger and you was back to Moo who can't vote. But the thing is, it wasn't American Indians, ladies and gentlemen. So, so insidious how our colonization, I think what makes it so different and so hard to get out of is because we really are dealing with someone who looks like us. And this revelation, well, it was a revelation for me, is really helping me to see the power of being tricked by someone who looks like you. It's really, I think that's what makes America's colonization so, it's like a study in what the fuck. Oh, shoot, I said I wasn't going to do that. It's a study in WTF because it's like, how did these otherwise pretty aggressive nation of people, how did they get so utterly colonized and for so long? And before Africa, we were colonized before Africa. When you actually look at the numbers, we were basically the first thing that was colonized. The first, it's like Europe, Asia, and Africa, they didn't waste no time, y'all. But Africa truly led the charge, y'all. And I say that because Africa, them Moors, they knew we were here y'all. The other nations of people, not really. They didn't really know we were here. The Moors had their sights on us the minute they woke up in Africa, North Africa. Let's be very clear. These are divas. These are northern divas. Okay, North Africa, and that alone, right there, ladies and gentlemen, should tell you that there's a problem with Moors. That they don't accept all of Africa. They don't want to be part of that, y'all. It still makes me laugh. It still makes me laugh how allergic they are to anything outside of North Africa. They want to be close to Europe. They don't want to be too niggerish now. They need to be close to their white folks because that's who they're going to be using the most, right? Right. That's why they civilized them. I mean, we talked about that a little bit. If you could hear amongst all the fusillade of cursing, um, we talked about why was there a need to civilize uh, early Caucasians? What was your goal in doing that? Don't let them lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. We know, we see how they use the Caucasians against us. And again, it's like they come with him so that they can have a reason to call us to their side. Like, oh, it's like, say now one day you're an American Indian and you woke up and said, Grand Rising, Mother Earth. Um, and then you looked to the Atlantic and you see this Negro practically running on water away from a white man. I think this is the imagery I'm getting, right? You see this rabid Negro practically running across the Atlantic Ocean, screaming and hollering, hey, white man, go get me. So you, as a person who is melanated too, you see this like, oh my God, what's happening? I don't know. Help me, please. Can I live with you? Please. Oh, sure. Come. So that's what this Negro did, yo. He played us. This Moor played us like a freaking record, yo. So I feel like that's the dynamic behind all of this. The Moor played the damsel in distress. And so we there trying to help him. But we forget that we we saw him needing help. But his plan was he told his Caucasian brother, now you chase me, right? And I'm going to run to these niggas because we got to be careful. These are wild ass Indians over there. So we got to play this the right way. Okay, now you know, remember everything I taught you in Spain and stuff? How to act with these niggas? Okay, because you know they heathen too. On top of everything else, these wild ass Negroes is heathen. So you act like you chasing me with a whip and a chain and stuff. And I'm gonna, that's, he gonna see that. He gonna feel sorry for me. And then I'm going to start getting in there and taking his women and messing up their bloodline and telling them they Moors. And then then you let me vote for a little while so we could get the Indians to start voting too, right? Let them think that this is a good system, right? And then 2 years later, wait, it was 1776. Okay, so it was a little more than, let's do the math, y'all. 17, let's do it. Okay, I got to pull out my phone. Uh, 17, 17, 11 minus 1776. For 11 years, free Negroes from Europe could vote. And so that's how they won American Indians' trust, y'all. This is, you know, you try to catch it when common sense hits you first, and that's what comes up for me. That's how the Negropean won our trust because he had voting power, and that's what helped us to compromise our sovereign standing is he's encouraging us to be part of this system that he helped create, a republic. 76. Now we was fighting, 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 right? Uh then in the midst of that, Britain is, I guess, turning up. And so that's also helping the Negropean to look like a victim. And so I just think we started to take the Negropean's lead once he broke away from Britain. And we must have thought that now we can be like brothers. But the Negropean's goal was to uproot us and make us Negropean too, behind all the noise. And this was also the goal of the Negro kings of Europe. So the free black persons, among them, I believe they had agents of the crown who were shaping this new government. And the plan was persuade the American Indians that this is a just government system and it'll work for them and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we took your land, but now we're going to set up a whole new system where you get a allotment and everybody else that come here get an allotment. So you're just going to be one like everybody else. Okay. At least we let you live, right? Or something like that, you know. Because they did have gunpowder, y'all. I did a chat GPT to find out, did Indians have gunpowder? And we didn't. We didn't have guns, but the Europeans had guns. In fact, it got so bad that we were trying to trade beaver pelts for weaponry, is what I read. So for 11 years, some states allowed these Negropeans voting rights. And so what we're going to do tonight really quickly is we ask Chat GPT some questions, and you got to really work with Chat GPT because she is a little biased. So let's look at the questions that I posed to Chat GPT just a little while ago. I'm going to share our screen. Okay. We had to ask Chat GPT because we really want to clear up this voting thing and we want to really pinpoint there is a difference between a free Black person and an American Indian. So that was the general conversation. Are American Indians the same as free Black persons? And we just asked this of Chat GPT. So, well, actually, the whole question was, were American Indians among those and whites who broke away from British domination in 1776? Were they considered voters in the states that allowed voting for people of color? So I'll read that again. Were American Indians among those blacks and whites who broke away from British domination in 1776 and were those American Indians considered voters in the states that allowed voting for people, or I should have said free people of color or something. Okay. So Chat GPT says in 1776, the American Revolution involved various groups, including American Indians, blacks, and whites, each with different motivations. So that's the three-card Monty, y'all. And experiences. While some Native Americans allied with, and see the fancy footwork, y'all, every time you say American Indians, these AI sort of you know search engines, they will magically start using the term Native Americans, and that's a big deal. Ladies, the spell they're trying to cast is that American Indians are the same as Native Americans. They are not the same, as we know, but we just want to catch little ways in which the system is rigged to you say something about American Indians and AI or Chat GPT will automatically start saying something about Native Americans. And you can actually get them to stop. Like right now, I could say to Chat GPT, answer my question and please don't use the term Native Americans. Please stick with American Indians. And it will do it. So that you got to work with it. And I'm sorry, the master of stopping comment, stopping, stop and go comment. Okay. So while some Native Americans allied with either the British or the American colonists, that's interesting. Why would American why would they I'm sorry, let's keep reading. While some American Indians allied with the British, either the British or the American colonists during the war, their involvement was complex and they were not uniformly represented in revolutionary politics. Okay. As for voting rights, the eligibility to vote varied widely by state and over time. In many states, free black men could vote, but this was often contingent on property ownership, tax payments, or other restrictions. American Indians, however, were generally not considered citizens and thus were excluded from voting in most states. So you see, it's still muddy waters, ladies and gentlemen. So, and notice they're using Native Americans again. Okay. Um, were generally not considered citizens. So generally, American Indians are not citizens. Now that we have been saying over and over again, and I hope we understand that because we're not citizens, we're not supposed to be voting, we're not supposed to pay taxes, we're not supposed to be enumerated. And it is not as hard as we might think to break out. The main thing we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is get from out of the oppression. Like, forget about setting up your government overnight because you don't have to. This government will still continue to assist us because they have wronged us. So they are now obligated to assist us in a way that doesn't pull us into their jurisdiction. They're just going to have to do it, y'all. The doctrine of discovery was repudiated. So the reason why we have to pull out, ladies and gentlemen, is because we have to get out of the genocide. In the United States, there is an ongoing genocide of the American Indians who were misclassified black. We have to first stop them from genociding us. That is the main reason to get out. If you have some reservation because you're thinking like, well, what kind of government are we going to have if we get out of the United States? What's going to happen to us? Nothing is going to happen to you. You're going to be fine because you're not going to be paying taxes, and they can't harm you because it's part of the Constitution. From there, we are going to have, they're going to have to start really thinking about reparations, right? So you're going to be good. The thing is, they won't be able to genocide you anymore because you won't be identifying as Black. That's the main reason. If you have any uh, question about why we need to get out, don't think of a government. Think of your life. Think of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the age of mRNA types of vaccines. If we don't get out and stand on being American Indians, um, we are in the age of, as I just said, what I just said, right? We can't give them any more opportunity for attempted genocide. Okay? That's how serious this is. So I stopped again. Over the years, the United States government's policies toward Native Americans and voting rights evolved. But during and after the Revolutionary War, their status was primarily one of exclusion from both citizenship and the electoral process. So now I want you to realize that this is what they're saying about American Indians. This is what makes us different from free Black persons. We are not one and the same, but the whole intention of the United States was to make us one and the same. And then but that was to pull American Indians off of their land and out of ownership of their land. Now, Negropeans are just fine with that because that means they have equal access. Everybody has equal access, though, mostly if you're non person of color. But I think we might look at it that the Black nobility didn't really go away, ladies and gentlemen. So when you try to do the logistics on, well, at this point, why can't America really be just a place where everybody is, where there's no caste system? I'd say it's because the Black nobility are still around. That's what I would say. Ladies and gentlemen, white people are a minority on the earth, truly. We have to get real with that. There are now more people of other races, let alone our numbers are in America. The number of people, the 2020 census is showing, it showed them why we had to go into a pandemic. Okay. I mean, it was the time because of the awakening, but also our numbers. If you go to that 2020 census, there's more American Indians. So it can't be that this minority group of Caucasians is dominating you, American Indians. There's something else going on. Do you hear me? There is something else going on. A white man cannot do this, especially these days, as a minority. So who's doing it, ladies and gentlemen? It's the same Black nobility that started this whole mess in the first place. That's why it's still going on. If white men are a minority, then we should be what Martin Luther King said, overcoming all of this. But we're not. Instead, it's in full genocide or shall we say, health compromise era. People with memory loss and all of this, right? And rare diseases popping up. And we acting like we just didn't get out of something that would facilitate this kind of thing. Hey, Kyle, it's like you can't even watch the YouTube without, I hate to say it, y'all, but it's like all over the place and it's annoying. But ED, erectile dysfunction, memory loss, weight, this thing for weight loss. And I'm like, it's like they knew what we would be dealing with post COVID. It's like they knew, you know, and so everything is lined up. All the pharmaceuticals companies, they knew what was coming, y'all, after that big that big demic. So, and we do know that the pharmaceutical industry is one of a circle of sickness, right? It's not about it's not about cures. It's about treatments. I'm sorry. And we ain't even gonna go into the food. Um uh so yeah. So we are so the question is with white people as a minority on the earth, who's still oppressing us? It's the black nobility, y'all. They never gave up their power. They just went underground with it, y'all. And I'm sorry, I know we're going off on a tangent, but you might say, but why are they doing this to us? Why? Why would the black nobility still hate us so much? Um, because I think I said it before, we challenge their domination because we're the same stock as them. They would prefer people that they can say are genetic mutations, people that are genetically modified, because they want to be in the position of God. These Negro priests and all that, they want to literally be God over the earth. And unfortunately, they're serving a war storm chaos deity that requires, you know, pain and suffering. That's the God that they've dedicated themselves to because that's the only God that would offer them a chance to steal birthrights. So these are priesthood that they don't want men and women to have a birthright because they want they just it's like someone who's become obsessive and they don't even know why they're doing it anymore, but they're so dedicated to it that they just all they want to see is what they envision. And what they envision is an earth where they can enslave people and watch them suffer and make them do whatever they want them to do. And it wouldn't be above the Diddy type of shenanigans either. These are men who feel like they are God. These are black men who even say that they're God. In the Moors rhetoric, they refer to the black man as God. Um, and the only way that they will accept you as a quote unquote black man is if um, you become what they are and want to dominate you know, all the little people and watch them suffer and make them do what you want them to do and enjoy it, jerking off and just drinking and smoking and, just enjoying the power, That's how that's life to them. They like, it reminds me of that scene in Queen of the Damned with Aaliyah. And she she didn't care that there were dead bodies all over the place. She, it just didn't faze her. Those are the little people. They are a little snack box. But it's just about you and me, baby. Come on, let's get in this tub with all these rose petals and stuff. And let's drink each other's blood and stuff. That's very similar to how these folks are, y'all. They Death is it I guess what it does is allows them to somehow enjoy the life force of those who they have basically made dead, made like cattle. It's hard to imagine why they would want a world like this, but again, they're dedicated to certain energies, and this is what the energy requires. And I think they've oath to these type of energies. So it's almost like I don't know if they can get out or I, I mean everybody has free will, but I think when you consecrate yourself and dedicate yourself to wickedness and stealing people's birthrights so they don't have rights. When you take somebody's birthrights, they don't have rights anymore, you know, because they're not attached to any land. They're just, again, subject to domination by those who feel like they do own the entire earth. But anyway, we went off on a tangent again. Um, Native Americans, however, were generally not considered citizens and thus were excluded from voting in most states. Over the years, policies towards Native Americans or American Indians and voting rights evolved, but during and after the Revolutionary War, and that was like 1776 is after the Revolutionary War, their status was primarily one of exclusion. This is American Indians, y'all, us, from both citizenship. Well, we wouldn't want to be citizens, but you took away our ability to organize to make our government because you don't want us to have a government because you know that we would be the landlords and you would owe us perpetually as long as they're here. So we were excluded from both citizenship, but that's right. That's a good thing. And the electoral process. Well, of course, because we would have our own system, but you just wiped that out. You did not risk. You couldn't give us even an inch of authority on our land. That's why we don't want you. And you owe us to the tune of endless credit, all expenses paid, like the little town of Curious Joel. Free black men. So I asked Chat GPT, free black men are not American Indians, correct? Sometimes you gotta push her. Then you come through, correct. Free black men and American Indians are distinct groups with different histories, cultures, and identities. So that's the game changer, American Indians. Free black men could vote because they're not us. Free black men, we're going to find out we cannot identify as free persons of color, nor can we identify as free black men because they're going to tell us how they see where free black men are from. So a lot of times, again, Indians get caught up in because we see ourselves as being referred to as free black men or free men of color or freed men. We're not any of those. It's just something to confuse us and so that we can get caught in it. Like they need us to have several opportunities to get caught in being from Africa, right? Because that's what all of those misnomers are, except Indian. Indian is a misnomer, but Indians are not from Africa, baby. Indians are not from Africa. So we will own Indian until we tell them that we're American, and that's what you will call us. Indian is just to get our land back. So we're going to take that. We're going to use that misnomer because it's not African. It's the only misnomer that's not African. Do we realize that, ladies and gentlemen? So ChatGPT told me that I'm correct, that free black men and American Indians are distinct groups with different histories, cultures, and identities. Free black men, listen, ladies and gentlemen, these are the ones who could vote, right? These are the ones that had the republic and all of that. We were just along for the ride because we look like them. That was the plan, slowly to make us black. But free black men were individuals of African descent. That is our correction for the video we just did, where we learned that free black people could vote. That's still not American Indians unless we become African. So that is the final say on this whole debacle. We were not supposed to be part of this system, point blank, period. And I kind of want to highlight that. So let me move this over, even though you don't see that my little name box has moved to the far left. But now I can access the highlighter, and we're going to highlight this because uh, we want to really be clear about the difference between being an Indian, not taxed, not represented, not enumerated, and a free black man or woman, I guess. Women were not allowed, you know. Uh, Free black men were individuals of African descent who were not enslaved. That's very interesting, though, because we are led to believe that everything from Africa was a slave. So we're not even going to bother with that. That doesn't quite sound right, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why they must be talking about NEGROPEANS, because NEGROPEANS weren't slaves, ladies and gentlemen. They were just subjects to Britain, the Black King of Britain. Let's read it one more time. Free black men. These are the ones who could vote, y'all. These are the ones that began to construct what they're calling the Republic and all of that. Okay. Indians were still seen as heathens. How do we know that Indians were still seen as heathens? Well, look at us today. We are all kinds of Christian, but we're still being treated as a marginalized people and a discriminated people, right? Discriminated against. So we're still being treated like heathens. You can rest assured that back then, American Indians were also seen as heathen. And so these free black men were basically of the Abrahamic religion. These free black men were Christians, y'all, or Muslims, or Hebrew Israelites. That's the other difference between American Indians and free black men from Africa. If we as American Indians identify as free blacks or freedmen or any free whatever, right? We're sovereign. We're not free. First of all, free isn't it's like you're in some kind of a caste system thing, and there's slaves and there's free. In America, we were just sovereign, y'all. We didn't have to be free from anything because we were sovereign. Now, slaves have to be made free and subjects have to be made free. So these free black men were individuals of African descent. That's why we cannot identify as those who were voting American Indians. It wasn't us. And in as much as we did partake in that, if we did, we had given up our American Indian to be a free black man to vote, and which makes you a foreigner on your own land. And that's exactly what this entire thing is all about. All these different misnomers for people of color. It's just so that we could grab one and then it could ball us all up together and make us African. But again, Indians are not African, y'all. Indians are not African, although we prefer to be American, period. We're going to take Indian because that's how you took our land. That's where you acknowledge our existence, but you mislabeled us again. And that's a big problem, all this mislabeling. As we said one time before, it should really void the Constitution because Indians are not Americans. I mean, like they are sort of like by default American, but the truth is we're Americans. And that's what we have to take back first and foremost. Now, Indian is just a vehicle to get to our American. Free black men were individuals of African descent. That's the rub, ladies and gentlemen. Once we identify as those free black men who created the republic, like the Moors told us they did, and had the Democrats and the Republicans, that wasn't American Indians. We were just riding their coattails because they had a little bit of clout. And we had none because this was our land and it was just being stolen from us. And it's interesting that they keep talking about people who had property. Yeah, you got that by taking it from American Indians. Only ones who had property could vote. But whose land was it, though? Like we said in the last video, ladies and gentlemen, Virginia belongs to King James. But luckily for us, Virginia is sitting on top of something that belongs to us. So King James is going to have to take his Virginia and go somewhere else because unfortunately, it wasn't free and clear. He laid that up on top of American Indian land. So his Virginia, his North Carolina, all that got to go. Politically speaking, American Indians, we cannot live in a state because you're giving your jurisdiction to the state. You got to tell the state, what's that saying? Move, bitch, get out the way. That's what you got to tell the state in a civil, friendly, loving manner. You are trespassing on and what do you call it? Squatting on top of my land, and I'm here. I'm not dead. I'm very much alive, and I need you to start paying to be on this land. If you're gonna be in a Virginia, you gotta pay what's under Virginia. And as we say, it ain't gonna be cheap, but it's gonna be a form of credit. Everywhere I go in the state is free to me because the state is sitting on my land, and I don't get no rent, y'all. Do you realize we ain't got rent for the last 250 years? Where is our rent, American Indians? Don't take it in dollars because it's going to circulate back to Caesar. You want credit, something that can't go back. Isn't that wonderful? Think of the little town of Curious Joel. Again, they everything is paid for. But we're gonna have everything paid for, literally. I think they got most everything paid for. And it's the biggies, health, and they're getting the best health care around. Ain't nobody gonna give no Jewish man no bad health care, right? I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not being anti-Semitical. I'm just saying that, you know, ain't nobody gonna be trying to give them this fucked up health care, right? It's true. I'm just saying though, I'm just saying. So we want that. That's what we want, yo. Give me the high-end healthcare. Give me the high-end stuff. What's the latest technologies? Oh, but not that Rona stuff, please. In fact, you're gonna have to start making technology to extract that stuff out of our body, American Indians, because that's a genocide. So what we know that y'all have some kind of machinery, you know, to get this shit out of our body. So could you please put me in the nanoparticle remover machine, please? Could you get this graphene and stuff out of my body? Because you tried to jetricide me. I don't want to be jetricide. I'll have to be. So that's what we want. That's also something that we have to think about. We want food that's got none of that stuff in it, no nanoparticles, no GMOs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all it's not nothing bad. It's all good, all good. But foreigners, they gonna have to pay us, y'all. Nice, just like every month, give me. Let's see, every month, give me. What do we like? Let's try to be reasonable. Um, well, with the prices these days, like $5,000 in a month in but this is for every for the rest everybody's life, whatever. I know it's not enough, y'all. I know, but I'm just saying this would just cover, it would be a credit line of like what, 10,000 a month? Is that a little better? Uh, yes. I mean, we'll figure it out. We figure it out. But it has to be spread out too, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we maybe. I know some of y'all saying that numbers ain't looking good. Haru, you gonna come better than that. Okay, so we gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about it. Shoot, let's talk about it. Throw me some numbers, y'all, in the comment section, and tell me what we need, and I will say that sounds good to me too. Um, but remember, we do kind of want it spread out. So let's think along those lines too, like a monthly line of credit for healthcare, for food, education. We not paying mortgages, but they are paying rent. So we could throw the rent money in there, how much we want for rent, That'll be all part of the credit line. And everything, y'all. Even the luxuries, if you have it's not just for necessities, it's for the luxuries too. Because when immigrants come here, they live lovely. Oh my God, these apartments in New York. Oh my God. Ain't we tired of going to the movies, ladies and gentlemen? And I'm not just saying it's just white people, but in the movies, they really, they make us feel bad, yo, because them white people always have fabulous houses in these movies, yo. They just walking around. Did y'all see the movie The Substance with Demi Moore? I know y'all ain't into the horror, But if you saw the house she lived in, oh my gosh. Oh my God, I want something like that. I want a house like that. For free. No rent, no taxes. It's all paid for by the wonderful United States government. Thank you. It's your rent. You want to be here so bad. Well, if you don't, but you still owe us even if you go home, though. Yeah, it has to be, ladies and gentlemen. Look up the town of Curious Yoel just to get an idea. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying go there and start getting all anti-Semitical. I just want you to see that they are living for free. And they have, like, as we said, like 16, 17, 18 children. You have to have a lot of freebies to feed that many children, ladies. Can you imagine what a food bill would be in a house of 17 or 18 children? And children like to eat and stuff. Can you imagine if you had to feed 17 or 18 children and yourself and pay for their school, and that's all free? What about when they go to college, ladies and gentlemen? See, that's the kind of numbers we got to look at. Please look up Curious Yoel, but don't do it in an anti-Semitical way. Just do it in an educational way. We are not anti-Semitic. We are anti uh, government genocide of American Indians. That's what we really are. Everything else will fall into place. But we gotta see, maybe that's how we could do the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, because you might want your children to go to American Indians. I'm talking to you. You might want your children to go to Harvard or something for free. You know what I'm saying? Uh, you just might want it. I don't know. Don't let them be lawyers though, ladies and gentlemen, please, because we're not part of that system. We got to have our own legal system. So this Martin Luther King week, this is the things we got to think about because he said we come to get a line of credit. So we got to think about what he said, ladies and gentlemen, in a peaceful, civil manner, please. We not like that rabid Somalian woman trying to get cause a ruckus because she don't belong here. It's like, don't you just want to go to her and say, "Hi, how you doing? How are you doing? How are you? Hi. Can I ask you something, please?" Yes, sure. Do you want to join the movement? No, 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 thank you. No, thank you. I would like to give you this airline ticket. And if you read, it says Somalia. One-way ticket to Somalia. That's what the gift I would like to give to you. Okay. And if the fact that it would be a person of color doing that, oh, that would just be the cat's meow. She'd be looking at like you don't like she can't understand. But I'm black like you. No, no, them days is through, lady. We are not black. You can be black if you want to. But could you do it in Somalia, please? Okay, so let's focus. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to, be clear. Yes, there was a moment for 11 years in this 250 years of oppression. Yes, there was a nice, cute little window where free Black NEGROPEANS could vote. And I'm sure some American Indians thought, oh, can I do that too? But we just didn't know, right? We didn't know. That was the plan, ladies and gentlemen, to give us a little taste and then throw us into the basement. And we don't know what happened to the NEGROPEAN, but I think we have an example of one of them that we talked about in the last video. The one that says that he's fundamental Black American. Yeah, you could keep that because when we stand up as American Indians, he will not have the same level of authority that we have. And we're not just picking on this character. We're not. It's anybody like him, ladies and gentlemen. These people that are so about Morocco, we want them to just go home because we tired of hearing about your Morocco already. My God, if it's so wonderful, shouldn't you be there? Why are you here? Do you know why you're here? As your heart and soul live in Morocco, do you know why you're here? Oh, because you want some of my birthright? Well, don't you have one in Morocco, though? What is so bad about Morocco? I mean, it sounds like you love it. And I mean, the love is, that's all you seem to talk about. Why don't you go, just go home? You just click your heels and think of home. No, it's safe, isn't it? You be next to Europe, your favorite place. Now, I know you're not too fond of Africa below North Africa, but maybe it's time to make amends with your African brother. Go home more. It's safe. You can go now. You can go. Be your own man. Be all you can be. Stand in your square. What happened to your square? It's over there, right? Why do you want to be here more? What is it that is so irresistible about my land? What is it? Y'all don't have enough food? I'll send you some. It won't be free, but I'll send you some. Want to get you some? Gonna get me some. What's the deal? What's the tea? What's the tea? Hey, I'm going to get you bodied and send you over to Morocco. Get your body, get your body, get your body. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we just want to keep it light. We was cursing so much. I'm so ashamed of myself. All that cursing and carrying on and screaming and yelling and hollering. I think I had a nervous breakdown. I think I had a nervous breakdown. Now, I try to take my medicine every day, but sometimes when I'm doing a 7-hour video, I forget to take my medicine. I don't take any medicine, y'all. I know you think I could use some, but I don't take it. I promise you. Um, uh, I'm not on antidepressants. I'm not on bipolar medication. I know I acted, but I'm not. And perhaps I could use some, but I'm too scared now. I'd rather be crazy because I don't know what they're putting in this stuff. I don't want it, y'all. I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. They're trying to genocide American Indians. They've been doing it for years. They're trying to compromise our bodies. Um, and I'm asking the ancestors to please protect our American Indians who are under attack. Please um, work against our colonizers' wishes and protect us ancestors. And I'm very serious, actually. This prayer goes out, and we pray that our colonizers and all his buddies go back home and find peace in their home and try not to steal so much. So we ask the ancestors to increase our our will on our lands be done because you gave us this land as our rightful birthright, and the thieves uh, the Moorish thieves, pirates, and all of that, they are trying to deceive us. So we ask that you deal with them and give them what they have brought to the world. Give it back to them and let them feel what it's like to be treated like cattle and be made black as something that came from their feudal systems and serfdoms and all of that. And we pray that the Moors get what they deserve. And the things that they put people through, they be put through until they learn. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you. We wish to be separate from the Moors, and they can keep their deities too. We were heathen, and we are going to remain heathen because their deities did not make our lives any better. We did much better when we were not colonized. So that's my little drop of a dime prayer. Excuse me. So let's finish. We got the highlight there. Free black men are African, not American Indian. So every time we see something about free this, free that, free, and it's usually free men of color, free black, freedmen, though it's not us American Indians. So let's read the whole thing. Free black men were individuals of African descent who were not enslaved. Um, and they often face significant social and legal challenges, particularly during the periods of slavery and segregation in the United States. That should make them want to go home. American Indians, on the other hand, are the indigenous peoples of, hello, American Indians, that's you. There's a difference. See, that first paragraph was about your evil twin, the Moor. That's who that is. He's from Africa. He's North African. That's Africa. You're American Indians. He's just trying to confuse you with his bullshit. Okay? So American Indians, on the other hand, are the indigenous peoples of North America with their own diverse cultures, languages, and histories that predate European colonization. While both groups have experienced oppression and marginalization, their experiences and identities are separate. What? Separate. What? Separate. What? Separate. You can't tell that to a Moor, though. Again, ladies and gentlemen, what's the Moor's favorite line? You are a Moor. You in there with your feathers, dressed like a whole Indian, and this Negro stand in front and says, "You are a Moor." And that's when you gotta, like we said, pull the battery out, pull the winding lever off, bang that thing up against the wall so it says, "You are American." So I want to highlight all both of them. This one, let's do the different highlight, y'all. Let's do a different highlight. Can we come on now? I want to do a different highlight. Come on, help me, help me. Come on now. You not let me do this? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we going to highlight uh what's the color we I think we gonna do this in red because this is caution, danger Will Robinson, danger Will Robinson, right? So we want to make sure this is uh that's red. Don't do that. Don't be that. Don't be that. Now the other one, we gonna do this one in green. But this is us, American Indian. Okay, so let's leave this on the screen for a little. Oh man, that sort of look like that damn African colors, don't it? Ugh. Oh man, I don't know if we could do this, y'all. I don't know if we could do these colors because it's sending a bad subliminal. Because that's saying Africa to me. Because they got the black, the Kwanzaa and all that. Nah, okay, we gotta do something else. Sorry, y'all. Pardon. We gotta do something else. How about don't got many colors here though. It says show all. Show all. Okay. Um, maybe we could make ours yellow, like sunshine. But yeah, because then the yellow, um, because with the yellow and this doesn't have undo. Ugh. Whatever happened to the undo feature? Okay, I'm going to do this. We're gonna keep them red because we gotta stay away from that. And I think we'll do this in yellow, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna do the American Indians in should we do blue? Uh, let's see. Ooh, well, how does that look? Oh no. That's not what we wanted. No. No. Um, we're going to do oh, I think yellow. Let's do yellow. Because that the yellow and the red is like a warning. But the red is what we don't want, and the yellow is what we want. We don't want to be free black men. We don't want to be freed men. We don't want to be free colored. We don't want to be free Negro. Um, so that's the caution. The yellow and the red together is cautioning that American Indians got to be careful to separate the two. The ones in red, those are the ones that could vote. And in as much as we identified, because they wanted us to identify as black, I guess some of us partook in voting, but I'm telling you, you were throwing away your an American Indian standing by doing that. So yeah, just gonna look at that. Let's read one more time. Free black men were individuals of African descent who were not enslaved, and they often faced significant social and legal challenge. Oh, well, you need to go home, particularly during the periods of slavery and segregation in the United States. Yeah, it was a trap for American Indians. The goal was to take the owner of the land out of the picture. So we were eclipsed by these free black men, and they became the voice of all people of color, and they don't even have the authority to speak. This is not their land. American Indians, on the other hand, are the indigenous people of North America with their own diverse cultures, languages, and histories that predate your. That's what we need to be to take our land back. We have to go to what we were or colonization. We can't be free black men. We have to be American Indian. While both groups have experienced oppression, the goal was to oppress American Indians mainly because we're the ones that got misclassified black. Them Negroes arrived black. We got misclassified into them. So that's why they took away all the, you know, they had to, in order for them to trap us, the NEGROPEANS had to agree to submit to the Federalist. And I believe they did that on purpose. I don't, that whole surrender letter of the Confederate South, that was a plan, y'all. We surrender. Because that's the only way to get this land and get these Negroes to run up north. We surrender to domination of the North. Um, and that was a Federalist move, the surrender to the North. That was the plan, y'all. It was the plan from day one. Nobility planned for centuries because all they really do is sit on their bum bums, right? They have all the time in the world to plan, y'all. We are, made to work, work, work. And we gotta work, 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 work. And they just sit down and plan, plan, plan. Which states did not allow free black men to vote? We just want to see who didn't. During and Chat GPT did not really answer the question like I wanted it to. She wanted to tell me who did and who didn't. I said, tell me who did not. But let's read. During the late 18th and early 19th centuries, many states in the U.S. had laws that restricted voting rights for free black men. Remember, that's not American Indians, okay? While the specific regulations varied by state and changed over time, here are some states that did not allow, okay, so they did do it, did not allow free black men to vote during that period. Okay, so they did answer it the way I asked. Okay. So Virginia initially allowed free black men to vote, but later restricted voting rights significantly. Free black men are not American Indians, ladies and gentlemen, but we keep falling into their lane, and that's what they wanted to happen. They want us to fall in their lane and forget who we are because they don't want to have to pay to live here. They want to live here for free and make everybody like they're immigrants so that we can have some nobility driven federal district of Columbia running everything. So, number one, Virginia initially allowed free black men who are not American Indians, y'all, to vote, but later restricted. Can you see how they use this to make us want to be black, though, y'all? Can you kind of see how we were coerced into wanting to identify as black, perhaps, ladies and gentlemen? Because they were just taking our land and giving it to these foreigners. So it's almost like, well, we might as well If you can't beat them, join them because they just taking our land left and right. So we were under duress, is the point. This is not something we said, oh, let's just throw away our birthright. No, we were under serious duress. Virginia initially allowed free black men to vote, but later restricted voting rights significantly. North Carolina originally allowed some free black men to vote, but imposed stricter laws over time. South Carolina enacted laws that disenfranchised free black individuals. These are not Indians, y'all. After the Civil War, we just got an identity crisis going on because we got these Moors working a dubious duality, double shit going on, and they needed a boogeyman white man so they could like practically run into our arms like the victim. South Carolina enacted laws that disenfranchised free black individuals after the Civil War. Georgia banned free black men from voting after the Revolutionary War. Georgia wasn't playing. So it's after the Revolutionary War that independence came, and Georgia they weren't playing with no free black NEGROS. See, this King George, he's really the reason uh, they had the Revolutionary War to break away from King George. But then, yeah, so then after that, Georgia banned free black men. So from voting after the Revolutionary War. That's interesting. So they didn't. They were. That really is the answer I was looking for. The state that didn't have any vote. That's what I really asked for. But Chat GPT was playing with me again. I asked only for the ones who did not allow voting point blank, period. And it looks like Georgia's coming up as that true answer, the actual answer. Kentucky initially allowed free black men to vote, but later revoked those rights. See, this is how I know this is not our states, y'all. But they never were. So let me not act like I'm crying about it. The states are on top of our land. Underneath these states is Algonquin uh, land, as Algonquins are the oldest language. I mean, the other Indians, you know, we know the whole spiel, right? By now, they're compromised. But if we become Indians, I think what we're going to do is just share the land amongst each other. You know, it's a matter of which Indians are ready to not be colonized anymore. Let's just join despite any alleged linguistic differences. And we're just going to share all that land amongst our people. And we're going to charge it's going to be added to the credit, the rent for all foreign entities on the land, like the big corporations. And that will be distributed among every American Indian in every state. There will be no shenanigans playing with that either. It's about people getting what they need and not having to struggle for it. They're definitely going to have housing. That's a no-brainer. And they're not paying for the housing. They're not paying for the lights. They're not paying for the heat. They're not paying for the water. They're not paying for anything. They're living in that house free of fucking charge. It's your land. Everything that they built on your land is yours because you have not gotten any compensation. That's how it has to be. That's how it has to be. And it sounds like, fantastical. Well, our oppression was fantastical. It's really an awe how badly we are treated, how much we have been led into burning houses. Everything that was thrown at us was either temporary or it ended up being given to somebody else. Um, so I say that thing that they call the public national debt, all of that is owed to American Indians because it occurred on our land. So all of that is going to be converted to credit. When they think about what they owe us, let's start with the national debt that we don't have to pay, but can is going to be given to us in credit. Um, let's just take a quick look, ladies and gentlemen. What is the national debt these days? I'm sure it's I'm not I don't know. We just gonna take a peek. I think they've been lowering it, y'all. Today. Ooh, look at this. They got what is the US national debt per person? Let's see what that is. Huh. I'm not too thrilled with that figure, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not too thrilled with that figure, but it's not bad if it's per each Negro person in the house. It's not so bad. But it would be like, okay, let's we're just supposing, ladies and gentlemen, please don't get stuck on the number. Um, okay, so let's share the screen. Okay. 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 Well, we just throwing some numbers around, ladies and gentlemen. We just want to get a rough idea. Again, these are not etched in stone. It's just some ideas of the type of credit we would need to obtain. You know that we are owed. Let me see if I could share the screen, y'all. Okay. So I asked AI what is the national debt, but then they had a breakdown of what it would be per person. So this is interesting. At first, I'm not too crazy about this number. The U.S. national debt per person is over 112,000 per each person, with recent figures from late 2025 placing it around 112 dollars. I'm sorry, $112,000, 881,000 per person, based on a total debt of 38.4 trillion and an average calculation. This figure represents each American's share of the total debt, which grows daily. See, this is what I'm talking about, due to budget deficits, with significant increases seen recently, notes the Peterson Foundation and the U.S. Congress Joint Economic Committee. So, ladies and gentlemen, say now you, American Indians, I'm talking to, you have a household of 5 people. Each of those people in your house is owed 112 thousand credit. Uh, we're just trying to get a general idea. We, just, you know, um, so that's how it breaks down per person. Now, it would be growing like they said, right? They said the figure represent each American's share of the total federal debt, which grows daily. Okay, so then our credit was going to grow daily. That's what we like. We like, good returns and stuff and good what do you call it? Interest rates and stuff like that. Now that's compounded daily, you said? Okay. Yes, that well, that's an idea, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you know, everything's going to be free regardless, but that's roughly, maybe a rough idea of how it would break down for each American Indian. And but on top of that, we're not paying for anything, because rent is due every month as long as your freeloader is here. So you always gonna get this but that's just, this is in addition to rent, I would have to say, because we're not paying any debts because we don't owe anything. We were pulled into this system unlawfully. That's why penalties should be added to that per person number. But it won't be a one-time payment. See, that's the problem I'm having. It would be like, oh, each person gets 112,000 and that's it. No. Because we're going to add the monthly rent, and that's going to be the credit that we get on an ongoing basis. So we just want to get an idea, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to what we was looking at, please. Where's it at now? What was we looking at? Oh, this is what we look at. Okay. Georgia was the real deal. Georgia weren't playing with you, you free black Africans, or what they saying you was African. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we were here before 16 19. Our tribes were here before 1619. So wherever you were on the linguistic map, your those people were there before 1619. Now, again, like I told you, when Verrazano came to the area where my people lived, that was in 1585, and they looked like Negroes. So that was our people. We didn't come from Africa. So if he found us there, that means we were American Indians in 1585 who looked like Ethiopians but were not. So that's how we have to claim our birthright, American Indians. You got to look back and, figure out, stuff like that. Okay. Kentucky initially allowed free black men to vote, but later revoked those rights. Tennessee disenfranchised free black men prior to the Civil War. Mississippi excluded black individuals from voting, but both enslaved and free whoa, that's so Mississippi and Georgia, they weren't playing. Excluded black individuals from voting, both enslaved and free, under various legislative acts. That's why I think Nina Simone made that song Mississippi. God damn. Oh boy. But still, this is just the free black folks. These are not American Indians. We're just being mixed in with them, so that they can get to us, and it won't be called genocide. You see? So when they fuck with black folks, it's not genocide. But because we're mixed in, It's a genocide. That's why the first thing we have to do is get this Congress to stop using the term black in every way that it's used. Black, Negro, color, all of that got to go. We are American Indians unless, there is real proof, and they had that proof. The immigration knows who's from Africa now. Don't get it twisted. So those folks are not American Indians. And so, see, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just money or not just even land. It's not even just credit. It's about your life as a black thing and being toyed with all these misnomer based uh edicts and laws that we're not supposed to be in. American Indians are not represented in Congress. Many other states similarly restricted or outright denied voting rights to free black men. American Indians are not free black men, particularly in the southern U.S. as time progressed. They were taking that land in the South, so they were terrorizing us and everything. Some states gradually expanded voting rights, especially after the Civil War. Well, that's when they made you United States citizens. Now, these free black men were actually state citizens because there was no U.S. citizen back in 1700s. Like we always say, the United States citizenship came in 1868. So these free black Europeans and Africans, they were citizens of the state or they had voting rights. I don't know if they were. Now, it's funny because they're not saying they were citizens necessarily, but I guess you have to have been one to vote. I think. And maybe that's what we should ask Chat GPT. Many other states similarly restricted or outright denied voting rights to free black men, particularly in the southern U.S. as time progressed. Some states gradually expanded voting rights, especially after the Civil War, with the passage of the 15th Amendment in 1870. Although many obstacles to voting remained through practices like literacy tests and poll taxes. Oh, Lord, poll taxes. So I had another question. If you can compare, please, each of the 13 states' original state constitutions prior to the U.S. Constitution of 1787 to tell me which of these constitutions spoke of American Indian rights. So now we really get into the nitty-gritty, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the 1787 Constitution said something about Indians not taxed. That's the federal Constitution because they're looking to pull jurisdiction over American Indians. But what we're asking ChatGPT is to look at all the constitutions of these 13 states and tell us which of these constitutions actually mention or spoke of American Indians' rights. So we're doing this to show that we were still not mentioned in, now maybe free black persons were, but American Indians were not. So this was the answer. The original state constitutions of the 13 colonies, drafted before the U.S. Constitution of 1787, varied significantly in their treatment of American Indians and their rights. Here is a comparison of each of those states regarding references to American Indians in their constitutions and state documents. So Delaware, the Delaware Constitution of 1776 made no specific mention of American Indians. Pennsylvania Constitution 1776 included some language regarding relationships with Native Americans, reflecting the colony's historical interactions, but it did not specifically outline rights for American Indians. I would like to see that actually. New Jersey. The New Jersey Constitution of 1776 did not explicitly mention American Indians. See, what I'm doing is for Americans is to show that we're not in these state constitutions. They're not talking about us. If anything, they're talking about free persons. Now, we might want to look at this Pennsylvania one, but I'm sure, like it says, it does not specifically outline rights for American Indians because we're not supposed to be uh, in these constitutions. So the New Jersey, you read that one already? Yeah. New Jersey Constitution of 1776 did not explicitly mention American Indians. The New York Constitution of 1777 also had no explicit provisions concerning the rights of American Indians. Connecticut, the Fundamental Orders 1638 to 1639, which acted as a constitution, generally did not include any provisions related to American Indians, and later iterations did not address their rights. Rhode Island. Rhode Island Charter 1663 and the state's constitution also did not specifically mention American Indian rights. Massachusetts. The Massachusetts Constitution 1780 did not address the rights of American Indians directly. New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Constitution of 1784 did not reference American Indians. Virginia. The Virginia Declaration of Rights in 1776 and the state constitution did not specifically mention American Indians, but reflected a colonial mindset that largely marginalized them. See, American Indians, what this is going to show, why I pull this up, because there is a distinct difference between American Indians and free Black persons. Now, I hope I asked them, I think I did, if free Black persons were mentioned in these first constitutions after the Declaration of Independence. What do these states say about free Black persons, right? North Carolina. The North Carolina Constitution of 1776 did not address American Indian rights or issues. South Carolina. South Carolina Constitution of 1776 did not include provisions for American Indians. Georgia. The Georgia Constitution of 1777 did not specifically mention American Indians. Maryland. The Constitution of Maryland, 1776, did not address the rights of American Indians. Overall, while some states had treaties, see, that's what they were talking about, and those treaties were bogus, by the way, or statutes because it was all under duress, ladies and gentlemen. You can't make an agreement with a people while they're under subjugation because it's under duress and it's the threat of duress and all of that. So no, these treaties are bogus, and there was not a meeting of minds. While some states had treaties or statutes regarding interactions with Native Americans, there they go, changing my words again, none of the original state constitutions explicitly recognized or defined the rights of American Indians. Instead, the prevailing approach was one of marginalization. Now we're talking, ladies and gentlemen. We're not supposed to be part of these states. So we can't stand in a state. In order to have dominion, we have to stand on what was under the states and where we were. But we're going to be a collective now as American uncivilized Indians. And we're going to just say all of the land is ours. And we're not going to divide ourselves because we have a greater cause now. We have to take the land back. It's the critical hour. And we need all American Indians, wherever they are, to be able to live free wherever they are and obtain their credit, their reparation credit to pay for all their all of their expenses for the how many years were we colonized? 200 for North America, 200 over 200, and when we include South America, it's like 500. So like for 500 years at least, American Indians should be getting all their expenses paid, is how I see it. I really want to hear from, commenters. How do they look at this? And do they see that this is feasible? When we look at towns like Curious Yoel, again, town where most of the inhabitants have about 18 children that have to be fed, schooled, and sent to college, and all the other things that, young people need, to keep them, happy and stuff. Uh, you know, can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that you just go to school? Well, you don't work, you just go to school and just learn. And then when you finish, you get a high paying job. And it's really quite an incredible deal. And all we're saying is that American Indians need that and much more. Yeah. Um, so so the prevailing approach was one of marginal. Now we're not free persons of color, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking specifically about American Indians who were marginalized. That was the prevailing approach, with most laws and orders reflecting colonial attitudes toward American Indians, or what they say, Native people. The legal and political status of American Indians would not be more explicitly addressed until much later as U.S. policies evolved. And what they're talking about is federal Indian law. And like we always say, Peter DeRico, the attorney that saw behind the curtain, says federal Indian laws are actually federal anti-Indian laws that work against American Indians, Native Americans, because they lumping us all together. And of course, we're not considered Indians, but those federal Indian laws, they're not doing any good for the Fakians. And furthermore, Congress shouldn't be making any laws for the real American Indians, us who are misclassified black. So these laws don't apply. The laws he's talking about, the legal and political status of American Indians, would be more explicitly addressed until much later. He's talking about those John Marshall cases where Judge John Marshall in the Supreme Court basically ruled against the Cherokee Nation, and I think it was mostly Cherokee Nation that they were dealing with. And so they're trying to show us that, when you come to our court, you will lose land. We will have you given land to the state that you are in. We're going to show you that we make the decisions for you. When you go to sell land, we go. Now, these Cherokees were going to sell some land to an individual, and the Supreme Court said, "Wait a minute, you think you could sell stuff? Oh no, we take your land, not you. We take your land away when we want to. You don't get to sell it and profit off of it." So that was one of the cases in the John Marshall trilogy. And the other case was something about they would allow a traveling minister to go on to the reservation and preach Christianity to the people on the reservation. The judge said, "Well, that's okay." Well, yeah, of course it is. It's indoctrination. Of course it would be okay. But see, the point of the matter is the Indians didn't make that decision. Supreme Court Justice John Marshall decided if they can have a preacher come on their land or if they can sell title or on their reservation. And you don't get to say what you can sell on your reservation. The judge does. The federal Supreme Court judge does, because they fancied that they had plenary authority. So they make all decisions on the reservation. That's what was going on, y'all, in these John Marshall federal Indian laws. That these cases became the foundation of how they look at federally recognized Indians. And how they look at you is that you don't have any power. Well, you shouldn't because you're not the real Indians anyway. Federally recognized Indians, becoming civilized mean you become foreign. So yeah, that was basically the John Marshall trilogy cases, the Supreme Court cases. Uh, the Cherokee Nation was just the judge was making all the decisions for things that took place on that land, on that reservation. And one of them was that the judge allowed Georgia to take some of their reservation land. One was the Cherokee Nation couldn't sell title to an individual. And the other case was, yeah, the traveling preacher, he's free to go onto the reservation if he want to. The judge decide, not the Cherokee Nation, the judge decide. What if the Cherokee Nation say, well, no, we don't want a traveling evangelist? Well, the judge said, well, no, he can go on your reservation if he want, if I say he can. So that's the three John Marshall cases, y'all, and that set the tone for how all federal Indian cases will be ruled. That with the Indians not having a say. Okay, the end. Bang bang. Court dismissed. Um. Okay. Did any of these speak of the rights of free black persons? So I'm asking. I did ask the question. And I want to know, they don't say anything about American Indians in those first constitutions of each of the 13 states, but did they speak of the rights of free black persons? And the answer is yes. Some of the original state constitutions from the 13 colonies prior to the U.S. Constitution of 1787 addressed the rights of free black persons. American Indians are not free black persons. That's why we're not mentioned. And free black persons, the answer is yes, they are mentioned in those individual state constitutions for each of the states. So Delaware, the 1776 Constitution had no provision specifically addressing the rights of free black persons. Okay, so why are you telling me the ones who do it? ChatGPT is something else, y'all. Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Constitution of 1776 did include provisions allowing free black men who met property qualifications to vote, making it one of the few colonies more progressive in this regard at the time. Okay, so Delaware didn't say anything about free black persons, but Pennsylvania definitely did, right? American Indians are not mentioned, is what is the point, American Indians. So when you get in your lane and stay in your lane, you will never be detracted by thinking you're a free black person. You're not a free black person when they talk about free black persons. And that's the ones who were voting, the free black persons were voting, not American Indian. Okay. Unless the American Indian completely gave up being American Indian, so he could be a free black person. And as of today, we're saying we're not black, right? Okay, so we got to get back in our lane. Voting was not for us. It was for free black persons. So we find that Pennsylvania did include provisions allowing free black men who met property qualifications to vote. Yes. Okay, so next, what else? New Jersey. New Jersey Constitution of 1776 allowed free black men to vote as long as they were property owners, though this was later revoked in the early 19th century. Well, they all were revoked, basically. So that was the trajectory of all of them. Once the federal government came on to see the U.S. Federal Constitution, uh, well, actually, no, they were talking about Indians not taxed. They didn't say nothing about they didn't call it black person. They just called free persons. The federal constitution was a grab of American Indians, whereas the states did not grab American Indians because they didn't speak about American Indians in their individual state constitutions. But the United States federal constitution, that's the District of Columbia, y'all. So if we can just say it, the U.S. Constitution is a District of Columbia Constitution. The state constitutions are each state's constitutions, like we're looking at now. These are not the United States constitutions or the United States Constitution, I should say, of 1786. These are before 1786. Each state had a constitution when they broke away from England. It's all that's why it's all happening in 1776, like independence. The states became independent of the European kings. Now, American Indians were not under these European kings. We were just being colonized by them, but we were not their subjects. We were their prisoners of war, basically. They were not our nobility, y'all. They just pushed themselves onto our land and we became prisoners of war. And they forced us into these bogus ass treaties. And then then the NEGROPEANS started setting up these, what we looking at, whatever, these states and all this shit. So New York, the New York Constitution of 1777 included voting rights for free black men who owned property, but this right was limited and was retracted in later years. Connecticut. The fundamental orders did not afford any rights to free black persons, and they were generally excluded from voting and other civic participation. Now, we're just talking about the Negroes, not the Indians. These were the trials and tribulations of the Negroes, the free black Negroes, or are they saying they're African and all of that? Okay, Rhode Island. Rhode Island Charter of 1663 allowed some free black men to vote if they met property qualifications, but this changed later. Massachusetts Constitution did not explicitly recognize the rights of free black persons, but did allow some free black men to vote if they were property owners. New Hampshire, or Hampshire, there were no provisions for free black persons in the New Hampshire Constitution of 1784, which primarily recognized white male property owners for voting purposes. Virginia. The Virginia Constitution of 1776 did not specifically address the rights of free black persons, and voting was typically reserved for white men. North Carolina. The 1776 Constitution did not include provisions for free black persons. South Carolina. The South Carolina Constitution of 1776 did not address the rights of free black individuals, and they were largely disenfranchised. Georgia. The 1770 Constitution similarly did not provide for the rights of free black persons. And lastly, Maryland. The Maryland Constitution of 1776 did not recognize the rights of free black individuals. In summary, while a few states had provisions that allowed certain free black men to vote under specific conditions, primarily property ownership, most constitutions did not recognize the rights of free black persons explicitly, and many states imposed various restrictions that marginalized them. The rights and status of free black individuals were inconsistent and often subject to the prevailing social and economic conditions of the time. Okay, so here's another killer dealer. Please explain, where did the free black persons come from? And when did they arrive in the Americas? Were they among the first colonies from England? This is what I asked. Okay, so they come. Free black persons in the Americas are primarily descended from enslaved Africans. So there, ladies and gentlemen, this is the final straw. Why American Indians, we can't keep swaying between being a free black person and American Indian. When we get serious, we're only going to be American Indian. Let's stay in our lane, ladies and gentlemen. These are Moors that we're reading about. These free black persons are Moors because they're not from here. They're from Africa, they're saying. Now, we know some of them came with the colonists. I'm pretty sure some of them came with the colonists, y'all. But they have to whitewash history and say, nope, they came in 1619. I think they came with some of the colonists, y'all. Well, I think they came with some of the colonies because King James was king over blacks and whites, not just whites. So I don't believe he just sent white people here, y'all. But some people say white people didn't get here till the late 1800s. So we're gonna have to do a deep dive. But I don't think Chat GPT is gonna tell us the truth on that one. Okay, you got to work with Chat GPT to get it to. You got to corner it because it's gonna go. A lot of times, it's kind of gonna go, with the status quo, like here, it's saying free black persons in the Americas primarily descended from enslaved Africans. Now we know that that's not really true, that they really were not many Africans here who were brought to the continent through the transatlantic slave trade. The arrival of African individuals began in significant numbers in the early 17th century, particularly in English colonies. Here are some key points regarding their origins and arrival. Early arrival. The first documented arrival of Africans in what is now the United States occurred in 1619 when a Dutch ship brought about 20 enslaved Africans to the English colony of Virginia. Individuals were these individuals were initially treated somewhat ambiguously regarding their status, as some could work for wages or own property. Now, I think the going word on the street among American Indians is that these were not people from Africa. They were from like the Caribbean. I believe that's what we are saying. Those of us who are, looking into it, I believe that's what is being said, and they really were not from Africa at all. But they would say we were because they're making us African. Um, that's why I think some of them came with the colonists. I think they were, you know, blacks among the colonists. You know. Okay, so early arrivals, they're going to go with the 1619 project. So that's where these free black persons are coming from. So either way, American Indians don't really want to be associated with free black persons, even though some of them got to vote in the short little 11 years after the revolution, after independence, okay? 11 years, there was a little grace period, but then they snapped back to the program and disenfranchised NEGROPEANS and American Indians because they kept lumping us together. That's why they misclassified us black. Development and enslavement. As the demand for labor grew, especially in the agricultural South, many Africans were forcibly brought to the Americas through the brutal enslavement process. Over time, the majority of African descended individuals in the colonies were enslaved, but a small number gained or maintained their freedom. The demand for labor grew. Oh boy. Excuse me. Free black person. The term free black persons typically refers to individuals of African descent who were not enslaved. Okay. See, this is what I mean. So they brought some people from Africa, but they weren't slaves. This must be the Negropean that we talking about. The Negropean is hiding in there somewhere, y'all. But he's not a slave. So free black persons, the term free black persons typically refers to individuals of African descent who were not enslaved. Some gained their freedom through manumission, the act of an owner freeing their enslaved person, purchasing their own freedom, or being born to free parents. In the early colonial period, laws varied significantly significantly in terms of the status and rights of free black individuals. They're not American Indians. That's all we need to know. Although we are often confused with them so that we can be torn down as well. Colonial status. While free black persons did exist in the early colonies, they did not constitute a large population. Also, there were some black persons in the early colonies, okay, compared to the enslaved. Over time, some colonies, particularly in the North, had smaller but more significant populations of free black individuals, especially as some states began to allow free black men to vote or to own property. So it's looking like they had some northern states because that was to get us to leave the South. Now, once we leave the South, now they uh, double down and they go back to disenfranchising all American Indians and all anybody that looks like an American Indian. So you see what's kind of going on here, ladies and gentlemen. The North kind of had to hold out a little ray of hope to make the Southern Indians say, well, we might have a better chance up there, up north. So let's run up north. Because see what they said, uh, over time, some colonies, particularly in the North, had smaller but more significant populations of free black individuals. This is in the North, as some states began to allow free black men to vote or to own property. So to me, that's like a open invitation. Come on up north, you Southern Indians that we're terrorizing, so you could leave your land and we could take over. Come up north, and then when they do, bang, back to black codes and you know Jim Crow time and no vote, no rights for you. But see, American Indians weren't supposed to be in this. This is just what makes it kind of confusing, yo. You have to constantly separate ourselves from this free black identity. Continued marginalization. Despite their freedom, free black persons often face legal and social discrimination, and their rights were limited in many colonies. The American Revolution and subsequent events in the 18th and 19th centuries further affected their status and rights. In summary, while free black persons were present in the early colonial period, they were not among the first settlers from England. Oh, okay, whatever. The majority of African individuals brought to the Americas were enslaved, and free black populations developed over time as a result of various factors, including changes in laws and social conditions. Well, this system wasn't supposed to make laws for us, but under the guise of us being black, they can have a ball, make up civil rights that are not part of, just a little part of the Bill of Rights. Civil rights are a small portion of the Bill of Rights. So they were just having fun with us, giving us half-assed rights because we weren't supposed to be in the system at all as American Indians. But again, they keep mixing us up with free black persons. Our job today as American Indians is to go back in time and separate ourselves so we can start to take back our land and get our reparation credit and start enjoying our life again in our land. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to stop here because we've been like Martin Luther done had us make 3 videos in 1 week. And thank you, Mr. King. Thank you. So I think we're going to end here because we've just been going at it, and tomorrow is back to work. Yes, the vacay is over. The little extended MLK weekend is coming to a halt as of Thursday. And so we got to get our rest until next time. So once again, we were just looking, and yeah, we finished all of this, right? Yeah. Just want to make sure that in the wake of our big revelation, like, oh my God, some black people could vote before the federal government existed, before the U.S. Constitution existed. Oh my God, we gotta look deeper into this. We've been telling people that we didn't have no voting rights at all, but as American Indians, we didn't. As when they mistake us as free black persons, we did. And I think that's where American Indians are saying we had a system. Yeah, for 11 short years in 250 years of abject terrorism, we had a little grace period, and they took that back because this is not our system. If it was our system, we would have kept it because we would know how to maneuver. We did not know how to maneuver in this system. I think agents of the crown designed this system, and those would have been Moors because American Indians, let's just face it, American Indians, we don't know. Nobody with a working brain should know how the system works because it's built broke. So don't feel bad that we've been tricked because this system is very deceitful. It's not straightforward. It's very contrary. We'll never understand the system. That's why we have to create our own. So, yes, we were just trying to figure out, are American Indians the same as free black persons who could vote? No, the fuck we're not. Thank you, Chat GPT. Even though you be trifling sometime too, sometimes you just as bad as AI. But AI, what I like about AI, if I may say, is that they do give you footnotes. Chat GPT does not give you footnotes. It just spits it out and don't tell you where it got it from. At least AI tells you where they're grabbing their information from. And that's what I appreciate about AI. I do. But it's, there's a rhetoric going on in the Indian country that you dummies that you use AI, y'all getting lies and lies, and you're filling our Indians with lies. So Chat GTP is better. GPT, that's more reliable. Chat GPT, but it is getting worse. At the Chat GPT, it's like, you know what? Whatever. Whatever. It's like it's like I think the rhetoric among Indians is that you can't really do research unless you are like you just can't pick up and do research. You gotta leave your go take, travel every, place and blah blah blah. And I just, I work in the research field and that's just not the case for us. I mean, I work in a law firm. And we do a level of research. And so, I just don't, I hope American Indians are not, uh, really thinking that it's not possible to do research unless you use anything but the internet. And, um, it's just techniques that have to be, used depending on what source that you're using for your research. Um, and again, because I work in a legal atmosphere, I do have a sense of research, and legal would be the area that would really most be applied to American Indians because we got to figure out the legal and the lawful of the situation we're in. So uh, this is why, you know, think this is what makes my videos it's more I think my approach is to try to look at the legal situation of it all. So I may not count in terms of having to, do this other kind of research that is, where you're traveling and, doing that. I think legal research, you don't really have to travel, And this is a legal issue. The approach that I'm taking to this whole American Indian dilemma, I want to see the legalities. So I'm in a different kind of, ballpark here because I want this to be lawful. And I know that there's there's remedy for us, but if you're in the wrong jurisdiction, you're not going to get remedy. You're just going to get a lot of gaslighting. You got to know that laws don't apply to you. And you got to call the Constitution to show that these laws don't apply to you. And then when you realize that you have been genocided politically, that is a legal issue, y'all. That is a legal issue that requires remedy and compensation in reparations. I always suggest that we get it in credit because we don't want to fall victim to the little money shenanigans, the fiat shenanigans. I say it like a mantra, but I really need to keep saying it. Money is very, very, it's, you gotta understand that money travels, right? It's not really wealth, it's currency. And when you have money, it's always leaving your hands. So American Indians, I implore you, look for credit. Just try to think in terms of credit because that's going to have all your expenses paid, and we don't have to worry about the little technologies of fiat. And and we could still live lovely. We just don't want to worry about you know, they're trying to get rid of money anyway, as it is, y'all. And so credit is what we require. And I do fear that they're trying to make this something that's available to just everybody. And it's what we get is not going to be for everybody. Okay. That is going to be constitute you stealing from us again. What we get has to be exclusively ours, and you have to admit that we exist. And I'm not seeing that there's anything, even in this current administration, that's really addressing us as American Indians. We're still in a big old blind spot, and yet those who advocate fundamental Black Americans, they're getting into the mass media, y'all. They're getting into the mass media. We have to start writing our declarations, y'all. And if at some point we're going to call some kind of press conference, because that's the only way we're going to be heard. We're not, we have to be seen and heard, okay? Because we're very legit. We have a real legitimate issue going on behind all the shenanigans of distractions, and yet we are still peaceful American Indians. We advocate peace, but this travesty has to come to an end, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a person of color in the Americas and you're not African and you're not from some other country and you have you can trace yourself to being here before colonization, before Indian removal. That's an important one. That's really the most important one, I think, is Indian removal, because that's going to show you we're here, you know, wherever you were, that's where your Indians were. So if you are an American, you must understand that this system, we just look at a series of questions and answers. The overall picture is you're being disenfranchised, even if you were franchised for a short time. That's the trajectory of every American Indian to this day. To get out of that circle of genocide, we have to get outside of this system, y'all. In the system is sure genocide. Outside of the system, we can begin to get a grip on this thing without it calling jurisdiction over us. We have to stand outside of this jurisdiction. Inside, we just get bombarded with legalese that we don't really understand, but we know that it's designed to disenfranchise us and to keep us at the bottom of a caste system. We have to get out of the burning house. Till next time, be and stay American, so-called Indian.